welcome to the March 20th Winnacunnet School Board meeting. Would you please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just realized that tomorrow is the first day of spring.
Well, that's why I wore my cashmere sweater tonight, because this is probably the last time I wear it this season.
There you go.
So this is the first meeting of the school board post-election, which means that the first task on the agenda is to reorganize the school board. So I will begin with calling for nominations for school board chair.
I nominate Nicole Segal.
Okay. Is there a second?
Do you have the time? No?
It might be challenging time-wise.
Should we? If you
So-
can't, it's not that I don't support you, but I know you're working and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but,
All right.
can,
Is
we
there
still
another
open?
nomination? Yep.
I'd like to nominate Leslie LaFond.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? All right, seeing none. We have a motion for Leslie LaFond to serve as school board chair. All those, or is there any discussion? Sorry. Just moving along here tonight.
Just want to
Alright.
get out of that seat.
Yeah.
I do. Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Abstaining? I guess since we all voted, I didn't really need to call for that. But here we go. Congratulations.
Leslie.
Thank you. Can I take nominations for vice chair? Yes.
I'd like to nominate Nicole Segal.
I'll second.
Alright.
Perfect. Good with that?
Yeah, I have time for that.
All those in favor?
Oh, do I vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can vote for yourself. I hope you did it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great, thanks, Nicole. Our first thing today is we're doing a public hearing on acceptance of a gift, correct?
We are.
Correct.
Do we have to adjourn this one and open that one, or is it just, we just do it?
Nope, just go right ahead.
Go ahead.
So we're opening the public hearing. Yep.
Opening the public hearing, okay.
So we've received a donation in the amount of $5,000 to support the band program from Rick Kirby, and any donation $5,000 or more requires a public hearing. So that's why we're here.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody have any comments or questions? All right.
So you can close that public
Close
hearing.
that public hearing, and
open
we'll
the
go to
next
our
one.
second public hearing on withdrawal of funds from the Building Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund. Matt wants to speak to that.
Yes, so the purpose of this public hearing is to comment on the proposal to make two withdrawals from the Building Maintenance Expendable Trust. So if you recall, as part of our budget process this past fall and winter, we did include the plan to utilize the building trust to fund two projects, the proposed athletic field access pathways, as well as the repair of the tennis courts. After later on in the agenda, there are two agenda items to vote on whether the board would like to withdraw the funds for those two projects. Additionally, there is an award of bid for the access pathways. The tennis repairs is under the threshold for bids.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments to be heard at this time?
Wait, so how much exactly are we withdrawing? Or am I not
good
supposed
question.
to ask that?
Probably should have included that. The access pathways is $164,500, and the tennis court repairs are $23,218.
I'm sorry, can I ask more questions? Sorry. Is this typical to do this? Because we've never done it so far in 3 years.
Right, so So the building maintenance expendable trust, the purpose is for building repairs and maintenance. Or additionally, it's a good safeguard in the event of some sort of unanticipated cost. So no, we haven't made a withdrawal recently. However, it is a tool that many of our other districts in the SAU utilize to fund some of these building projects. So, and it's a great way to supplement the budget. So in this case, we knew we wanted to address these two projects, and if we had put it as a separate warrant article, for one, it could potentially have failed, but also we can do it sooner by having it as a building maintenance expendable trust. We can start these this spring as opposed to waiting until next fiscal year if we had done a warrant article.
And how much do we have in the fund right now?
Currently, we're at just under 205,000.
Okay.
Do we put into that like every budget? I just can't remember. Like, do we put money into that?
So we have the
Every
option
budget?
to issue a warrant article
Has
during
to
the
go
budget
through a warrant
process. We
article.
did not this past year, but that's typically using unreserved fund balance. However, you could also do a raise and appropriation for direct taxation. So if we were to do these two projects, we would likely, during this coming budget cycle, recommend to contribute into the building maintenance trust so that we start to replenish it.
I sort of have a comment and a question. I'm kind of curious how we got to $164,000 for the accessible pathway. You may recall, I think it's been about a year, 2 years maybe, a year and a half. We started talking about the possibility of putting in a pathway when we had leftover funds accrued. And at the end of the year, there were some projects that we were going to sort of put towards it. And I was approached by a group of individuals from the community who had parents, grandparents, or children who experienced disabilities. And they expressed a desire, basically, to be able to get down to watch graduation. Could we put in a path? And I then heard from parents of students who use the fields during the spring, lacrosse, soccer, softball, track, and they kind of echoed a similar request of, because they had heard that there was some talk about putting a path together. So then I also heard from the Alumni Association, and they were kind of intrigued about site improvements. You know, they've been very generous with some of their other projects. So with all of that sort of in, you know, my back pocket, I had approached the administration, and we talked about possibilities, what would work, what could work, what might work. It's a very steep path out there, and we talked about having a path all the way around, maybe for cross-country to use. And at that point, I think those groups were all poised to chip in and help and sort of make it a community project. We were just hiring our PR firm, and we thought that might be another good asset to tap into to help build community and bring some of these different groups that were interested in that path together. So as things went along, it was communicated that we should probably have enough money in the general fund to probably cover it. Well, I understand prices go up. Sometimes we overthink something, and then we find out how much it costs, and we have a little dose of reality. But I guess my question is, were any of those organizations or groups or people, did anybody reach out to them about being able to contribute or be part of this community? Because I look at the price tag now, and I think that's not how we wanted to do that originally, you know. There seemed to be enough community support for it that we could probably find a less expensive way to chip in and do it. Has that, it's not an official offer, but has that concept sort of been dispelled with? Is it the only way to move forward through tax appropriation or leftover money or withdrawals from funds?
Yeah, so this project is higher than we had anticipated. Originally, we had gotten pricing for the path, kind of around the athletic fields. And then we realized when we had met with those vendors, that we needed to get civil engineering drawings to address the hill, which is the problematic area. So the pathway is, I don't want to say relatively cheap, but as far as the contribution of the entire project it's the smaller percentage. That was represents probably $40,000 or $50,000 of the 164. However, so we went through that process of hiring the civil engineer, with board approval, and we at that point we were, our facilities manager was talking with the different vendors about the plans, and they were estimating it was going to be just over $100,000, like $110,000 total. And that's where we fell when we were in the budget cycle, and when we had kind of presented the idea that we'll use the Building Maintenance Expendable Trust at that point. So when we kind of decided to go down that road, we did not. I'm not sure if Bill had any discussions with outside organizations, but we did not pursue any outside funding. We presented to the board, and the board was I believe was amenable to, and we included in the board budget materials that we use the Building Maintenance Expendable Trust. When we actually went out to bid, it was more than what we had expected, which is unfortunate. That's a pretty there's more work than what we anticipated, as far as, because it's a switchback with railings that needs to be backfilled to make it down to
No,
that.
I understand.
So when we had, in the fall and winter, when we as a board decided to go forward with the Building Maintenance Expendable Trust, we thought it was going to be cheaper. That being said, we could certainly, if the board doesn't want to proceed because of the high cost now, we could explore that option without, for outside funding. That's absolutely something we can do. We can go back to the drawing table and look at other avenues. We could do partial, right? We could,
We could come up with a certain amount and then ask for
Right.
donations for the
We
rest
could-
of
we could-
A
fundraising.
matching fund, I just see the potential there for so much goodwill to be built
Right.
among different groups that are constantly trying to do good things for the school and make donations, and I don't think we have, sure, it's easy just to go right to the bank and say, hey, can we have 164 and get it done? Or is there opportunity there to leverage something even more, I don't know, meaningful? Is that amenable? I don't know. Sorry, I'm from the Midwest. That's just the way they do things out there. They get together.
That's not a
they
bad thing.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm here, aren't I? But I don't want to lose the goodwill that this project sort of stemmed from. And just the varying groups that I think might, be willing to be part of a community group.
well, as you know, you were part of that initial committee that was looking at it, and we could certainly kind of go back to the drawing board, reconvene that committee, and start talking with other organizations and start that process now.
Well, I don't want to be depleting the Building Maintenance Trust Fund. To me, that's for emergencies. right?
Yep.
This is something that, well, I don't wanna shoot myself in the foot here, cause I want it to happen, but I just feel like there might be,
It's not a roof situation and it's not I know what you mean.
right.
Yeah.
It's a really great thing to have, but is it a necessity?
do we
Maybe
need that
not.
pot of, tap into that pot of money?
Right,
Or can we make it happen
other ways.
a different way?
Well, and maybe
mean-
we tap that, Tamara, like the group that you started with that committee, and maybe we start back with that, and we give ourselves like a 6-month or a 3-month period, right, to kind of put things in place and say, hey, is this a possibility? Do you think we could get it? And if we can't, then we can come back to this area, but if we can, great, we can move on with that way. Do you know what I mean? But I think we need to have an ending point because then it's just sitting out there swirling like so many things in education do,
Right.
so.
And
I
I don't want to lose that sense of goodwill from these folks, and
Mhm.
if they understand that, look, it's gonna be too, we might have to go a different route to make it happen, then that could beget something else too.
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't know, I just,
I mean, with the building trust, I've been here now for 20 years, and I think when we first started, we probably had $25,000, $50,000, so over a couple of years, we put in 25, 50. And we never have had to use it. We talk about the roof project, but now we've got the roof project on the way.
yeah,
The other big expense sometimes is the rooftop units, HVAC units, and we've got the HVAC plan, so that's in place. So, not to say that anything can break. We've been
Right.
pretty fortunate that this money's just been sitting there. That's why we stopped putting into because we didn't have to use it. We can definitely ask the community, and I'm sure there's groups and organizations, but, I can compile it. We spoke about it last time, that the amount of money that Winnacunnet has received donation-wise is incredible.
yeah.
That, without us asking. So,
Asking, so if we
you know,
ask,
I
you never
don't-
know.
I'm not sure if we want to go out and ask. And I think just from the standpoint that we've recognized it and we've listened to the input from the community, moving forward, and it's up to the board to decide, that I see this as an opportunity that, yes, the money's there, we really don't want to spend it on something, but at the same time, it's just sitting there. So to me, this would be an excellent cause to use it. Because I think everybody knows what it's like to get up and down the football field, that, for graduation, stuff like that, we've got golf carts, but again, how long, does it make sense to go approach the community, and what does that look like? We haven't done that here before. And then how long does that take to push the project out?
How long is the project anticipated to take? Did we get an estimate on that?
It would be a summer project, so it wouldn't be, it'd be completed in the summer, it wouldn't be during the school year, so.
In time for football season.
Soccer season,
Track.
field hockey,
Softball,
cross country.
baseball,
Chess team.
It'll be ready for graduation next year. No.
so Bill, I'm really kind of intrigued by kind of what your thoughts are on this. I mean, do you see us waiting until we have accumulated enough and then do it ourselves through the trust, or,
My feeling
about
is,
half of it, or-
to do it through the trust. It's something that clearly has been an issue for a long time. And we've done the work here. People may question, well, you have that building trust, why are you asking us for money too? What does that perspective look like? So,
That's a good point.
and if, people want to donate afterwards, I mean, we can always accept donations to enhance things and do other things. But I think from a facility standpoint, this is clearly something, in my belief, that falls on the school to provide for the community, and the community can use it.
Yeah, and the alumni just donated.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
it's true.
Right.
Our new permanent,
I see both
Outside.
sides, I do, I really see both sides of taking the
yeah.
money because it's there and, that's what it's for, or,
right,
waiting, so.
because you can do it now, and then all of a sudden, maybe something would happen, or if we don't do it, we wait, and then something happens down the road, and then we can't do it.
Right, plus the
So-
longer we wait, the more expensive it's gonna
Right.
be.
Right.
yeah, there's that. I mean, we were thinking 100, and now it's
Right, and now it's at
160.
160 in a year, so I'm thinking
Yeah.
maybe we bite the bullet and do it, and then we can take donations after the fact if people wanna beautify it, maybe.
Right.
Let them do the shrubs and plantings afterwards, you know?
Like,
That might be nice too.
Mrs. Johnson's second grade class could sponsor these 20 feet. Or, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like,
There's ways
there's
to
so
get
much
creative with it,
opportunity
I
there.
agree.
Yeah.
And to make it a community thing, I think, I agree with what Bill is saying too. It's kinda, I'm teeter-tottering here on what the right move is.
Yeah. I think financially, I think it's probably better to jump on it now, cause like we said, it's 60,000 more
Yeah.
than when we started a year ago. And I know there was more involved, but I think we all know it's not gonna go down.
Would there be, this may be a silly question, would there be a way for us to approve using like 100,000 for it and then trying to raise the remaining via Tamara's suggestion of going to outside groups, or is that a little backwards and not acceptable?
I mean, you certainly could do that, however, we're at risk, we're responsible for the full 164,000, so at which point the operating budget would have to fund any
Okay.
difference if we weren't
Yeah.
able to fund the balance.
Sounds like we have the
Shortfalls.
Fisher Cup.
And I will point out that as you are all well aware, this year we are in a deficit, and we're gonna be withdrawing from the special education expendable trust and utilizing the fund balance, retention balance as well.
Yes, Mrs. Superintendent.
Just from a planning perspective, I know the award of bid is on the agenda for this evening. If the board were to defer that decision until their April meeting, is there any challenge with getting the project scheduled from your perspective?
I don't think that'll be a problem. We can notify the vendors that's just being delayed a month. And, I think from a scheduling the process, it won't affect the summer, project completion if we were to wait till April.
With that just being, it gives you time to kind of sit with the information and digest it and still make a decision a month from now as to how you want to proceed, but, maybe you want to have conversations with potential funders, in that time period, but just, it's not critical that you make that decision this evening, that's all.
And
Well,
this is later in the agenda?
Yes.
So we could.
This is just the public hearing on it,
Yeah.
and then, we haven't even gotten to the rest,
kind
so.
of we
Yeah.
might,
So when we get to that, we can decide.
we
How's
can
that?
decide, okay.
Any more discussion on it then, for the,
Okay,
just
thank you.
for,
one important note is from the air, it does look like a W,
Come on. Alright, I mean.
how good is that?
It wasn't
So which
designed
drone
that
did you do?
way.
Yeah, I
This-
love
this-
that.
I suggested
the
be painted
switchback.
blue,
Yeah.
so
It
from
does,
the-
Or
kinda
maybe
look like a
outlines.
W.
Oh,
like
that's
the
too
wings.
funny.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm thinking blue lights along the railing.
I think that would be great. I like it.
That's it.
I like that.
Yes.
Thank you, Matt.
Hey, if we're gonna go big, let's do it.
Let's do it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Well,
so-
we could get outside donors to do the lighting.
Well, that's what I'm
and-
saying. We
Yeah,
can
for
do
the
for the other
beautification of
stuff.
it, yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now we're gonna do, public comment is opened at 6:54. It'll be open for 30 minutes. Do I have any public comment? Seeing none, we're gonna move on.
Just want to make sure you formally acknowledge that the public hearing is closed.
The public hearing is now closed.
Perfect.
Okay,
Very formal.
there we go,
Public
very formal.
comment is-
So our public comment is opened at 6:50, it's still 6:54, so we're good. And that'll stay open for 30 minutes. Presentations, Unplugged Challenge.
So,
Love
a
this.
few weeks ago, several months ago, several teachers came to me about how we can educate the community as far as the reliance that we have on social media. So they came up with a one-day challenge. It was up to students and teachers to volunteer to basically turn off their cell phones for the day. Clearly, cell phones, teachers use different teaching media instead of the computers. So Jay Miller is here tonight to discuss that. So I will turn it over to Jay. And I think it was very successful.
Yeah, I've heard great feedback, so.
Good evening. I'm a math teacher. I know I have to be in front of the mic, but I really don't need to be.
You don't need to be, you've got that voice.
I have that voice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Can I put it on the back of my phone?
of course. That would be perfect.
I know, right?
Right, I'm gonna put unplugged right here, right above the bell. There we go.
So the whole idea came to us because obviously you guys have seen the Portrait of a Learner data and feedback from different teachers and different groups of people, parents and all that. And one of the things that we were seeing as teachers at parent-teacher conferences and stuff like that was parents were always asking about cell phones because their kids, they recognize that their kids have an issue to some degree. But when we started this, and unfortunately Tarnia and Julie, who helped me with this, and we were responsible for all this, when we started this, at first we were looking at the problem that students were having, but then we reflected on it, and it's not just the students, it's all of us, right? I mean, I walk around and I can see you guys have your phones on your desks right now and all that. So it's got to be a collective effort, all right? And it's not just the kids, it's not us versus them. And so as we reflected about it a little bit more, we came up with what we're calling the lookup campaign. And yes, there is an aspect with the cell phones and trying to get the students to put them down and learn how to use them responsibly, and the same thing with adults. It's not just the kids walking around the building with their cell phones out looking at it. We're all doing it at times. So we came up with the idea of the Unplugged Challenge, and it's, at first we thought we were unique and we thought we were doing the right thing, and it turns out this is a global phenomenon, global campaign. I don't know exactly where it generated, but there is a Unplug Challenge that happens. I think this year it was March 1st. And so we kind of piggybacked off of it. And I don't know if you guys noticed all of that's feedback from the students and what they learned from it. But if you get a chance, I'll leave that. I'm not going to take that down tonight, though. I'll come and clean it up tomorrow. But if you get a chance, take a look at it. It's actually, it's really astounding what the kids got out of it. Obviously, there were 5 big things I want to point out to you guys. First thing is, obviously, the kids recognized that when they put their phones away, their learning was improved, all right? Which is astounding, you know, because I think I wasn't convinced that they would get that from it, but it was profound how much the students, even kids who decided not to participate, started to realize how much more efficient learning was, all right? Another thing that came up, completely blindsided by this one, was students, when we started this whole thing, we were asking students to put their phones away, and some of the students came back and go, well, what if we're gonna put the phones away, can we put the Chromebooks away for a little bit too? All right, and okay, you know, you give and take, right? I mean, that's what we all do. One of the things though was the students came back, and you'll see it up there a bunch of times, and the most profound thing was students are like tired of the Chromebooks. Think about when we were, before COVID, we were doing things on paper and pencil and everything, and then COVID forced us to get on the Chromebooks, and I feel as though sometimes we overcompensate, all right? And so when we came back, we were still using the Chromebooks a lot, and I was astounded by just how much the kids recognize that, and they want to use paper and pencil. And it's kind of an interesting situation too, because I was just in the doctor's office, a PT appointment for my own son, and I was talking to the woman about it after the fact, and she goes, you know, that's not really crazy. And I said, what, that they want to use paper and pencil? And she goes, no. She goes, think about it. She goes, since COVID, and I wasn't aware of this, there has been a huge uptick in terms of students needing eyeglasses, and actually their center of focus for their eyes actually converges, all right? And they're seeing a lot of it, all right? Now, my son was in there because his focus was actually behind the actual object that he was trying to focus on, and the doctor noticed it in the physical, all right? But the eye strain, this, headaches, you look at the research and all of a sudden it starts to come up a lot, all right? And I got the PT to like send me some research and all that, and it's littered with all sorts of side effects that COVID and using screens, not just cell phones, but screens all the time has had on the students. So now we're starting to think about, all right, how can we manage this? How can we go back to maybe teachers and say, hey, did you know that's going to be one of our next steps, I think, in terms of, you know, the lookup campaign. The students also felt as though they experienced more activities during that day. They were more engaged. But the last thing that I want to point out is kind of a big one, and that is that they realized that how antisocial they were. They didn't know who the kids were in their class at times because they're so in tune with what's going on in the Chromebooks at times that they never had a chance to interact with people. And I think that's profound as well. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention. I think it's kind of interesting. I know that we're going to have another think tank on the 26th of this month, so next week, next Tuesday. I know Dr. Hobbs came in for the first think tank that we had. It was a small group of teachers who helped us kind of organize this and come up with some good ideas. And I think the next avenue that we're going to try and look at is more ways to engage the kids, get the phones down, maybe more opportunities to have like what we're going to call Phone Free Friday, maybe once a month, and extend this into next year. And again, it's all trying to build the culture and community of Winnacunnet and get them to engage with each other a little bit more. And then we're talking about like the profound effect of like talking to each other, like maybe have a Talking Tuesday or something like that, where we really promote kids to talk to each other and get their heads up.
Talk about your lunch experiment.
What's that?
Your lunchroom experiment.
Yeah, the lunchroom experiment. Oh, yeah. So one of the things that we did do that day was we had a trivia day in the lunchroom. And, you know, someone, I think it was Julie Hall, put together like a trivia game. And we ditched the game and went through the trivia because the kids were really into it. And kids were like yelling out loud. They completely had their phones away for that time.
That's awesome.
But it was a really good experience for all of them. And that was one of the things you'll probably notice in that what they learned. They're like, yeah, school can be fun without cell phones. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think that was a really positive thing. I've heard lots of feedback. There was a document that I had for people to provide feedback. I don't know why so many people are afraid to type into it, but I continually get more and more feedback from people about how positive it was for the kids. So hopefully we can do this again, maybe not as formally, but a little bit more informally and build it into our routine a little bit more.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
One of the
a great
things,
idea.
I know years ago, we started talking about, the unplugging and whatnot, and having an unplugged area in the school, whether it's a room, whether it's a whatnot, like just that quiet room where nobody has phones, nobody has computers. And I'd love to look into that more deeply too, to see if there's a space, whether it's in the library area or whatnot.
Well, now that you say that, the library actually had a couple of games, if I remember correctly. They had puzzles. They had a couple of things set up so that the kids, and if you go into our PD, I know more and more teachers are trying to incorporate activities for when kids get done with work.
Yeah.
There's a battle with the cell phones. Like, how do we manage it? And everyone's got different ideas. And now the conversation has been started. People are coming out of the woodwork and trying to figure out different ways to keep the kids off their cell phones.
Yeah.
The research says now that a high school student on average post-COVID is on a Chromebook or a screen for 4 to 6 hours a day.
That's insane. Yeah.
All right. And one of the things that they combat, and I've heard about this before. My wife works for a hospital, so I've heard about it. Is 20-20-20? Have you guys ever heard of that? If you read or you're on a computer or anything for 20 minutes, every 20 minutes you're supposed to look up and look 20 feet away for 20 seconds. And that will do a lot to actually combat the convergence issue that people have, and it will reduce the headaches and all that. But it's going to take some time, and we can totally look into doing stuff.
Doing something like that, or and I remember Kathy Silver used to have the old shoe rack that was on her door, and the first day of class, you wrote your name on one slot, and your cell phone went in there. And to me, that's an ideal thing. But she would say to me, weeks later,
after the school started, that kids would come back at the end of the day and their cell phone would be there because they forgot it. After a while, it was like nice not to have it. So even if we had more teachers doing that it's like, okay, guys, your cell phones are over here. You can get them at the end of class.
Yep.
All the studies that I'm reading too say these kids are begging for us to take them away from them.
The one thing that I think a lot of people in our building are concerned about is you take a look at some of the cell phones, $1,200. And what teachers are afraid of is assuming responsibility for those devices. All right, now, just as easy as to put a cell phone in something, it's easy for a kid to take out, right? One of the teachers I spoke to, and Bill knows about it, went and purchased like a metal box. It's a cell phone box.
Yeah.
And there's, he was laughing about it. There's a cloth that goes over it. We still have a lot of parents who text kids in class and, you know, want to talk to them and call them. And it is hard when parents want to be able to dismiss their kids left, right, and center in the middle of the day to say to a kid, tell your parents to hold on. You know, you'll text them back later. We just can't do it, right? So there's this cloth that does go over the box that apparently, I don't know how this works, disconnects them somehow. So even their iPad, you know, their iPod earpieces and all that, they don't like really work, right?
Can we put it over the building?
Yeah, I know, right? Can we do that?
Like that.
Let's tent the building.
But
I like it.
anyhow,
into
yes,
the new
there's
roof.
a lot of conversation about it,
Okay.
and I think we're heading in the right direction.
Good.
It's a good start. Yeah.
So I would just add, it was a topic for the student leadership team. They had requested a conversation about mental health and wellness, and this came up in the conversation, and it's about 8 to 10 high schoolers and 8 middle schoolers, and the high schoolers were sharing their experience, and you know, one young woman shared that it was the first time she'd actually talked to some of the people in her warrior block all year because everybody's usually on their phones. Another individual talked about the trivia experience. Another noticed that like people were actually like talking in the hallways, that the hallways in her observation were usually much quieter, but they were busy and noisy because people were interacting with each other. But that group talked about it just in terms of mental health. And we also know that the research is pretty significant about the rise in mental health challenges in youth and adolescents particularly, is pretty closely correlated to the rise of cell phone use in adolescence, right?
Yep.
This past decade, we've seen significant increases in anxiety and depression in young children as we've seen that correlating increase in cell phone use and social media use. So I think there's a large group of students who are also very interested in being part of the solution to this issue because,
That's
as
right.
you pointed out, they have noticed, right, what was different for them on that day.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Oh no, Luke. Let's do Luke. We're not on here.
It's lower.
So, since last time we met, we ended try 2, so we're into the final stretch now.
For you.
Woo, yeah, that's right.
And then this weekend and Friday was the spring musical, so it was Beauty and the Beast, and over 1,200 people came to watch it over the 2 or 3 nights. And then this week, spring sports started, and I think as of today, all of the tryouts are done by now. And then so that's a wrap up of winter sports. And then last week as well, on the 14th, was Battle of the Classes. So it was after school, so it's a competition between all the grades in the school. It's a basketball game, and sophomores won. And then I have unplugged it, but that was just covered. And then for terms of what student council's up to, we're working on our application for the state board of student councils for our honor council, so we can be recognized as that. And then after that, we're going to be planning what we hope to be a spring field day that we used to do, but hasn't come up in a while. We were going to hold a winter pep rally. There just wasn't enough participation, so we're going to work the next couple of months to hopefully have a successful field day. And then for fundraisers going on right now, the Animal Action Club just started a clothing and toy drive, clothing and shoe drive, not toy drive. And then NHS tomorrow night is the induction ceremony.
Great.
So yeah.
So Luke, I noticed a sticker on your computer. Have you decided?
Not yet.
Okay.
But it's a contender.
Just checking. Just saw that and I was like, oh, do we have an answer? No, yet. All right, you'll let us know though.
Yeah,
Okay,
probably next meeting, my guess.
perfect. Thanks.
Timing's right.
That's it. Great, thank you, Luke.
Yeah.
Superintendent's report.
Yes, so, I know, I think Principal McGowan was there Friday night, I was there Sunday afternoon for the, matinee performance of Beauty and the Beast, but, it's always just fun to see, students involved in all aspects of theater, whether they're in the tech crew or, you know, in the orchestra or on stage. It's just such great team building and also, just their life skills, right? We talk about life skills as part of Portrait of a Learner. You are learning so many different skills in that collaborative work. So congratulations to them on a good performance, and those audiences were full with lots of little people waving glow-in-the-dark roses.
And dresses, and they were
Oh,
all in
yes.
their princess dresses. That was
There were
so
many.
cute.
Oh, the
Oh
show
my
I
God, it
saw
was
was
so
full
cute.
of boys.
So there you go. Perfect. So jumping off on my report, I don't even remember what's in it. I feel like I wrote it so long ago. I guess elections was the first thing in there. So thank you to Winnacunnet voters for the support of our budget and warrant articles. And it's great news for us, and I'm sure Matt will talk about this as well, but we're also very pleased that the CESPA warrant article passed across all of our districts. So those support staff are our paraprofessionals are a really important part of our day-to-day work here in our schools, and so we're pleased for them that the voters recognized that and supported them. Joint board meeting is coming up a week from yesterday, on Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So agenda items for that will include the reorganization of the joint board, session with the New Hampshire School Board Association for the benefit particularly of our new members, but it's always a good refresher for veterans as well. A review of some policies, my evaluation, and an update on the communications plan.
Can I just ask a quick question?
You
It's
bet.
definitely on Tuesday, because the 28th is not Tuesday.
Well, let me check then, but I'm pretty sure it's Tuesday. Oh, I went a week too far on my calendar.
I have it on 27th.
Oh, there you go.
Wednesday the 27th.
Okay, so neither the day nor the date are right, apparently, in that report. Thank you for
Okay, so
being the first person to point it out.
Wednesday, 3/27, 6.
Wednesday,
p.m.
3/27, 6
6
p.m.
o'clock.
It is correct in the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
So crossover will be happening with the state legislature, so that is when bills that have been approved in the House move to the Senate and vice versa, so that's coming up in another week or two. And so we will be scheduling, hopefully for mid-April, another session with our local legislators just to weigh in on those bills that are still out there that pertain to public education. So we will be sending you a save the date for that. Dr. Hobbs will talk about certification, but teacher and administrator renewals are on our agenda for this evening. And I just put in a few of the other highlights that are happening around. It's maple sugaring season, so Hampton Falls had their sugaring off celebration a couple weekends ago. There's been sugaring in Northampton.
Was he?
Okay,
I love that.
there we go. The high school does some, but there's some in Seabrook, some in Northampton, some in Hampton Falls, some at the high school. So if you have a sweet tooth, you could probably, for the right price, acquire some maple syrup from our enterprising students. Again, I think great for them to learn some of those traditions. We talk about students spending so much time on devices, but when they're involved with the maple sugaring process, they're outside, they're identifying trees, they're tapping trees, they're in the woods, they're collecting sap. They're well, in some cases, building an actual fire, and supporting a fire. In some cases, it's propane, but again, really important, I think, life skills for students to be acquiring, and traditions that we are proud of here in New Hampshire. Student leadership team, I already mentioned, they'll be meeting again soon. Our Dr. Toomey will talk about the Staff Professional Development Day that's coming up in April, but we have some students from that leadership team. That's a mental health focused day, but we have some students who've agreed to be part of a panel to just talk about their overall mental health and wellness, what it's like from a student perspective. So we look forward to that, and that team will be meeting. Its next meeting will focus on transitions from middle school to high school, and they're very interested in talking about a theme that also came up in the Portrait of a Learner process, but how to connect students from our different sending schools earlier in their school career. So I look forward to that conversation as well.
Thank you. Curriculum instruction and assessment. Dr. Hobbs, please.
Thanks, it's good to see everybody. Just a few quick updates from here. And again, this is last month, right? So we had at the beginning of the month, we had our full admin team meeting. Mostly it's just nice to get the administrators from across the SAU together in one room. You can kind of see the agenda. We did have a law presentation. We talked a lot about strategic planning, and we talked about communication plans within our schools. Second, 2 updates on safety and security. You're aware that April 3rd is going to be our mental health day or SEL day for professional development, but 2 other safety and security events are happening. One is there's going to be a regional reunification training in Exeter that day. So what that is creating like a rally point in the case where students have to leave campus. The good news about this is, since it's regional, we're putting ourselves in a position where we can lend help to other districts, they can lend help to us, we're all using the same language, we all have reasonable protocols, so the resource is just broadening with that. Second update on safety and security, there is a graded regional emergency drill in Seabrook on that day as well. So we're going to have representation there. So that's with regard to the power plant and those kind of safety protocols. So it's a big day for everybody. We've spoken a lot about Portrait of a Learner. We are, now that we have a finalized product, we really are working with principals in integrating Portrait with their school improvement plans and with building goals. You're going to see this at Winnacunnet, really related to NEASC, the NEASC process this spring, but also it's a great just kind of a way to look, a lens to look at the school in terms of what we're doing, what we need to work on, and congratulating ourselves when we're doing well and working on the things that we need to work on. So I'm sure you will see a school improvement plan this spring with parallel with the NEASC. And last, unfortunately, with their 8 credentials, Southampton has won the certification race this year. Actually, these numbers are from late February, so they're delayed. But we're all tracking pretty well with certification. Again, certification isn't due until April 15th for our teachers, and they actually get the certification or pay in June. So it's not a huge deal, but we're chasing them. And that's it, unless you guys have questions.
Anybody? No? Good,
All right,
thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Toomey.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see you.
Good evening. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, Luke.
Bye, Luke.
Couple of updates for you this evening. Wanted to shout out Patrice Baker. I know you've met her. She is our intervention outreach specialist and continues to do such creative outreach in the community. And her latest venture is something called the Grandparent Cafe. You know, the research that she's shared with lots of us is around the larger numbers of grandparents that are either in multi-generational families living together or are in what we call now kinship roles, where they are caring for and bringing up their younger grandchildren for whatever reason. And so allowing these folks an opportunity to get together for support and information can be very helpful. So Patrice has launched the Grandparent Cafe through a partnership with Hampton Public Library and Seabrook Public Library. Doesn't matter where they live, they can come from anywhere, and this little group is growing. They're meeting about every other week at the library. She has a group called Step Up Parents that is contributing some incentives like gas cards and other resources so that they can have coffee and refreshments, and the group is growing, so it's working out really nicely. The principals have posted it within their newsletters, and it's up on the websites, and Patrice is all around the community posting the flyers. So wanted to just bring that to your attention and let the public know that this is available for anybody. And as a side note, I had the opportunity about 11 years ago to purchase a home with my daughter, her husband, and their 3 children. So I live with and see my 3 grandchildren every day, and it's a blessing. So, you know, more and more families are doing this multi-generational opportunity. On the professional learning side of things, one of the updates I wanted to tell you is that we started a cohort with Dr. Alan Bloom in last October, really, with the special services directors, and then invited lead teachers to join us in February. We'll have another session with him again in April, really kind of digging deeply into what is specially designed instruction, how do we ensure that we're addressing all three areas of content, methodology, and delivery of services to the best of our ability, looking closely at not only accommodations, but what about modifications, because that's really the heart and soul of what we do in special education. And so we're just kind of raising awareness and helping people to get more effective in the area of writing individual education programs. So, you know, that's happening. April 3rd, as Superintendent and Dr. Hobbs mentioned, we're going to gather all the instructional staff from across the SAU here at Winnacunnet High School for a day of learning. Very fortunate to have Mirko Chardon coming from Novak Education. Mirko and Katie Novak together jointly co-wrote a book called Equity by Design. It's a little bit of a take on universal design for learning, but it just kind of makes that connection to teachers having so much really power to shape students' learning experiences, to help really forge those relationships and to change the trajectory of our students' lives in very positive ways, helping them link social development, everything that we're talking about with the students that we see in the leadership group and that we've heard of in terms of all the feedback they can give us and all of these mental health challenges that they express to us. It's really important that we help teachers understand how they can work together to kind of address those needs while at the same time propelling those kids you know, to learn as individuals and to make the most of what they need to do. So that's happening on April 3rd. We're very excited about that, and we'll report back to you and let you know how that goes.
Great.
Questions?
Thank you. Anybody have
you.
any questions?
Oh, I'm very intrigued by the topic you were just speaking about with the Novaks.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know, will there be any takeaway tools or things that we could see as a board that might be proposed or encouraged by and teachers from, I don't know, they don't just have to be high school, but
Some of the principals elected to purchase the text, and so I know that there's a study group component that goes along with this particular presentation that we'll have for the full day on the 3rd. And so principals in different parts of the SAU are leading those study groups, some before, some are waiting until after the 3rd to kind of get that book study going and then implement some of the strategies that come out of that work, which is really about seeing students as individuals and you know, making it count for every kid, no matter what the circumstances. The presenter has a trauma background, personally, and sort of presents in a way that's very authentic. I had the pleasure of and the privilege of learning from him for a full day myself, along with other people from across the SAU, and we were most moved and motivated by that because the authentic experience that he has lived, and then he went on to be a principal, and so he's walked the walk. And has this background that can influence other educators in terms of what his experience is, and that none of our kids are throwaway kids. None of our kids are pushed to the side, right? We need to make sure that we're involving everybody and that we're recognizing the challenges that our kids are facing, as Superintendent was saying, around the mental health needs. That's why we thought it would be impactful to invite some members of the superintendent's student leadership team to come and join us for that day. And we talked to them about it quite honestly, told them that it was going to be a mature topic and we would need parent consent. And from what I understand from our director of guidance, 4 students from that team have stepped up and said that they want to join us and that they would be willing to sit at the very end of the day on a panel to share their own perspectives on these needs, because I think that's the most authentic way to give it to the teachers, is to have them hear from our own students and what it is that they can tell us about the pressures that they're experiencing in their own lives and in their own learning, and how this type of work around equity by design. So universal design, as you know, is a very, impactful way for teachers to lesson plan. But when you take that and you partner it with equity, and we think about what every student needs individually, we get into all of those other measures. So we'll certainly, try to, there's lots of digital resources, and we can point you to the website, Novak Education. There's lots of information there, and equity by design is featured very prominently on the Novak website.
I would love it if you could even do a short follow-up.
Sure.
Let us know how things progress. You
Sure.
can certainly include it in your written, you don't have to come every meeting.
Okay.
But if you can just let us know.
Sure.
If it's been
we're
effective.
planning a little survey. Dave and I are working on this electronically, right? Even though maybe paper and pencil is the way to go with the survey after
Do it
tonight.
on
I
your
think
cell phone.
it might be just better to pass out a piece of paper.
There we go.
But we were thinking about a QR code and, do an electronic survey. So we should be able to bring you some information. I'll try to think about scribing some thoughtful questions to that survey and, maybe bringing you back some good information.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, that'd be awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Much appreciated.
Principal's report next.
Good evening. The biggest thing is on next Monday, actually next Sunday, the NEAS visiting team is arriving, but they will be spending Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday visiting the school, talking to teachers, students, and staff. But the one thing that we need to figure out is they also want to talk to the school board members. They plan on doing it via Zoom, and everything was going to be great via Zoom until we realized that if we have a quorum of 3 of you, that we need to have a public meeting, and you guys need to be in a physical spot. And when I sent that out, it appears right now that most of you will not be able to attend that physical location. So what I need to figure out, there's 2 options. One is have 2 members of the school board agree that they would be the 2 participants in Zoom with the NEAS committee on Sunday night. Or the other one, we can try to find a time, Monday or Tuesday probably, that you would meet in person with the NEAS visiting team. So I'm not sure what people's schedules are, even during the week on that Monday, Tuesday.
Bill, if it makes a difference, I can make Sunday night. I was thinking I might have to be in
Okay.
Long Island with the softball team, but they've scrapped their trip, so
Oh, okay.
um,
So you can be here on,
I can, if that makes
Okay.
a difference. if it's
Nicole,
better-
you're out.
I'm gone.
You're
If-
gone, and
If it's
you're
better
on
for others to.
kid duty. Are you available? So you'd have 3 of us.
So
Right.
so the plan would be then that the 3 of you would show up about 5:55, 5:45. I'll have to talk to Griffin or somebody to make sure that we have the Zoom. I'll be there.
Okay.
So we'll have the camera set up in my conference room.
We can get them in person. We can get at least 2.
To meet in person?
To come here in person. They will be staying overnight. So Kaisa had said, or Linda, the committee had said they could be here in person.
Okay.
Oh, that would be even better.
All right,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Okay.
so
All right.
we'll
Follow up with
confirm that, but yeah, so
But we'll be here at
6 o'clock,
5:45 or whatever, so.
Yeah,
5:55.
just let us know.
Yeah, okay.
So
So
we'll
we'll
show up,
post-
we'll
we'll-
show up,
Yeah.
and then it'll either be Zoom or in person.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for being flexible with that.
Oh, no,
Yeah, so
Really
we'll
appreciate
post
it.
for a 6 o'clock meeting, and I think as, I mentioned, when we were talking about schedule initially, so 3 of you are physically present. Those of you physically present can vote to allow another board member to participate remotely.
Okay,
So there'll have to be a motion to do that, and,
okay.
someone will be there to take minutes, maybe me.
Yeah.
I can take minutes. Talking about donations, the Hannaford Help Schools program is back in action. So we receive money for, we receive $3 school dollars for every 4 items purchased, and over the last many years, we've received over thousands of dollars from that program. And then, in addition to that, we've also received the donation for $5,000 that I believe we're voting on later, but we have 2 smaller donations that I've accepted. One is from the United Way of Massachusetts Bay and Merrimack Valley. They donated $59.46 to support the Winnacunnet students in need, as did NextEra Energy, who donated $140 to support students in need. Enrollments have been steady, and then the other thing that upcoming events, Again, we just had the spring musical, which was great, great performances, but I do want to note, and everything went off well, but as the weekend went on, they lost more and more of their prime people. Yes, they got sick.
No.
So a lot of it, so this, the stand-ins
Yeah.
came in and they did a great job, but it was one of those things that
Wow, I didn't know that.
several people got sick, so I feel bad for those that did get sick, but overall they did a great job.
Yeah.
And then on Thursday night, we do have the National Honor Society induction,
What time is that?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
And then we've got the NEAS coming up. Next Tuesday, we have the SAU 21 Band and Chorus concerts here. And then on Saturday, March 30th, we have Empty Bowls. And the following week, we got the PSAT, SAT testing, and I'll just end it there. And then we had a very successful trip to London with several students. I gave the report there, 32 students. And what was great about this trip, it was hands-on. I was actually doing lessons and stuff like that, so they had a great learning experience, and it was successful. They plan on going to Italy, similar type of trip where they would be doing hands-on things, painting, stuff like that. So I told them I would bring it to you this evening, let everybody know that next year, this time, February vacation, we'll be going to Italy.
Yeah, this was great, going to Scotland Yard, and, wow, we should,
Yeah, they did a lot.
they didn't
And
leave
it
any
will be
kids
rock,
in the
paper,
top.
scissors to see which one of us gets to go as a chaperone.
Oh, I
Right?
would do it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I
I'm
hope
like,
they
yeah.
double check to make sure they get everybody out of the Tower of London.
And then coming up for April vacation, there's a trip to Costa Rica. Shannon Clifford is taking some students, and then also we have some students going to Spain to stay for a couple weeks.
Oh, great.
Nice.
Awesome.
And then that group also, they came here, some Spanish students from Spain came here and spent the week here, so.
I like the France thing.
And that's it for me.
Great, thank you. Do we need to vote? We don't need to vote on the Italy trip. We just say,
No,
have
I'm
fun.
just,
Okay.
have fun.
Yeah, have fun. Bring them all back. All right. Finance report, Matt.
Thank you. So I do want to provide an update on the status of the operating budget I had alluded to earlier this evening. And as I've noted in previous board meetings, our budget is very tight this year. This is really due to two accounts. One is our special education account, which is over budget by $593,758 as currently, as well as our health insurance account, which is over budget by $114,889. So at this point, we are forecasting an overall deficit of approximately $300,000 for the fiscal year. Now, I've spoken in the past about how do we address those deficits, and that's where our expendable trusts come into play, as well as our fund balance retention balance. So we are recommending that we hold a public hearing at the May school board meeting, a little closer to the end of the fiscal year, to make a withdrawal from the special education expendable trust in the amount of $200,000, and utilize $100,000 from the fund balance retention balance. So in addition to that, we will also ask for a vote to accept the unanticipated revenue. So we haven't done that in the past. That is because it's really more of a procedural item where if our expenditures exceed our appropriations, are on a practical cash basis, our revenue will cover those costs. However, from an audit perspective and state regulation perspective, we just need to accept that surplus revenue, and then that can cover the appropriations. So I will note, however, that these are numbers based on where we stand today, Obviously, we have 3.5 months remaining in the fiscal year. Those numbers can change. Obviously, as we approach that May board meeting, we will have a more solid number that we will present to you. However, I think, as you know, knock on wood, you know, we are forecasting that's going to be 300,000. The other piece to that is we will have the opportunity in September to make any withdrawals if we didn't withdraw enough, or we can pull back some of the money into the fund balance retention if we ended up not expending as much as we anticipated. So that's after the audit, and we'll have final audited numbers at that point. But that's just kind of that offers us the ability to get an exact number. So in addition to this current budget year, you know, as you're all aware, we do have the official results from last week's election, and we are very happy that all of our proposed warrant articles did pass. That included the operating budget, the CESPA CBA, phase 1 of the roof project, and the HVAC replacement articles. We are very happy about the CESPA CBA for a paraprofessional contract. That was forgive me for just mentioning it one last time, but that was an incredibly important article that addresses both our educational associates' salaries, but also their benefits. And we hope that now that that's passed, that will help us as we move forward with both keeping our great EAs and the ability to hire new high-quality EAs.
And that passed by a really good margin too. So thanking the public for that is you know, they were amazing.
There was overwhelming support for our educational associates. So I do want to thank our Winnacunnet community members who did come out to support our paraprofessionals and Winnacunnet as a whole, and to vote. So thank you.
Matt, I just want to say thank you for all the social media posts that I saw. I mean, not that I was on my phone all the time, but when I was, there you were. And it was just so gratifying to see all the support, you know, all the pictures from the schools, all the teachers, and it just it makes an impact. I'm a media consumer, and to see that mixed in with all the other kind of crazy things that we read about, you know, the demise of education, to see that support is huge. So I just want to personally thank you for all you did for that. I think it makes a difference.
Well, thank you, because we were actually having a conversation in the central office about how, you know, that's a lot of that has to do with some of the PR training that we conducted with the schools, because a lot of that content is coming up from the individual schools, right? And there's been a marked improvement in our social media presence, and just getting the word out that, hey, there's a lot of great things happening in our schools.
Yeah, positive messaging is awesome.
And just letting people know what we're doing, right? It's really important, and boy, some of those kids are cute in those pictures. So, two more items. I did want to note that in addition to the year-to-date expenditure report and revenue report in board docs, you will also find our annual financial audited report from 2023. As you recall, I did report out on the results of that audit back in September, but now we have that final report published. That will be posted on the websites, and it's great reading material if anyone needs to go to sleep. And finally, more good funding news. We did receive notification from Save New Hampshire that we received an additional $100,000 from the third round of the SAFE grant. and that will fund 3 projects: fencing, surveillance cameras, and window film. And I'll also note that the fencing project is actually that's a $65,000 project that was part of our capital improvement plan, out like 3 years. So it's really nice to be able to get that project done and you know, take an item off the CIP.
Off the list.
So,
Perfect. Any questions
you.
for Matt?
When does the GMR come in?
So good question. So as you're aware, our health insurance GMR, we receive for our health insurance premium a guaranteed maximum rate in October, and then we get the actual rate in March.
I was hoping we might get
which-
tonight with all this money talk.
And I probably neglected to mention it because unfortunately the actual rate came in at the guaranteed maximum rate. So
All right.
we will not be recognizing any savings from the health insurance. If you recall, we had a very large health insurance rate premium rate increase of 23.7%, which had an outsized impact on this FY25 budget. When you look at the how the GMR is determined, and then the actual, they're looking at the 18-month trailing claims history. Our claims history actually got worse over the last 6 months from the GMR. So luckily that is a guaranteed maximum, but it could have been worse if they didn't honor that guaranteed maximum. So unfortunately, I have no good news when it comes to health insurance. So
One can hope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Facilities report is in our packet. We've already, public comment is closed now at 6:42. Sorry. Wait. Yeah, thanks. Winnacunnet Pride we've already had, so we need a motion to accept the minutes from December 20th and February.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, December 20th meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. And for the motion to approve the minutes of February 8th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for February 8th meeting.
Okay, second that. Great. All those in favor? Thank you. Continuing business. There's been a revision to our calendar.
It never ends.
Never ends.
So the New Hampshire primary is scheduled for September 10th, and the town of Hampton has requested to use the high school as a voting place, as it has done for other pieces. That is, given the law that went into effect this year, with scheduling with the Seco School of Technology, that is a challenge for us. It is a, I guess I could say act of Congress, because those can take a while, to have the 5 sending districts to SST align their calendars so that there are no more than 10 days across those 5 districts that don't align with SST's calendar. So we know we need the place to vote on September 10th, and we're gonna have to figure out a plan.
There's no way they can use the junior high, can
Right,
they?
that's what I was thinking. They have before.
They say no.
They say no
They
to
say
parking
no.
because of the parking.
And they want to be consistent because each
Right.
year when we have
Yeah.
elections, people come
We
here
change
and
it.
back and forth, so from a
Yeah.
consistency
Okay.
standpoint,
that
so.
makes
We've
sense.
definitely gone.
Under the circumstances, can
But-
you
yeah,
request an appeal of the law?
So we're
It's-
investigating those options.
Because it's for a good reason. It's,
Yeah. Understood.
I mean, the SST calendar, I mean, it's, I mean, we can go to Marston, or we can go to the junior high. Well, you people that live in Hampton.
Well, I mean, I know that we've heard in other communities, the Secretary of State's office prefers that towns keep their voting place consistent, because that is a challenge for voters. But we are looking at whether or not there may be an option for the calendar
Okay.
for SST. So.
All right. So do we have a revised one that you need a motion on?
You have a revised one in your packet that has no school on September 10th.
Okay, so I need a motion to pass that.
Motion to approve the revised Winnacunnet High School calendar for the 2024-2025 school year.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Reluctantly.
I know. I know. All right. Now we have school board committees appointments. So these are the ones that are available or that we need. There's some that we don't need this year, correct?
There are
Yeah.
no negotiations this year, so that's correct.
Yay, right? There's no C, is there, but there's there CESPA?
There's not.
Oh, okay.
We just passed.
We just
Right.
did that one, yeah.
All right, so, my question is, we can do this tonight, or you guys can think about it, and we can vote on it next month?
That would be
Is that-
good for me, I think.
Would that be good? Okay.
Mhm.
Is that all
Because I
right
was
with the rest of you?
CESPA, so I'm gonna have to do something new.
Hmm?
I'm gonna have to do something new because I was CESPA
Mhm.
last round, so I'd like to look through to see
Sure.
what I can
Okay.
do,
Okay.
et cetera. If
Is that
that's
okay?
okay
I
with you
won't
guys.
be here next month, but can I
Can you email me or?
email?
Yeah, email us and let us know what your priorities or your
That's a good
preferences.
idea.
I'll just
Okay.
wait on all of them.
Email.
Or then again, yeah, we just appoint you to the ones that, when you miss a meeting, this is what happens, right?
Actually,
All right.
Desiree, if you're interested, I would like to, not resign, but, step down from operations. I've done that a lot over my tenure, and I would love some fresh folks to learn. It's an important committee.
Okay.
Think about it. Think about it.
Awesome. That was good. Roles and responsibility of school board.
So I think that this was requested just to be able to help the public understand what the board's roles and responsibilities are, right? The school board
Right.
will be doing a training for itself. So, I think, and please jump in, but I think what the board is wanting the public to understand is that the board doesn't run the day-to-day operations of the school, right?
Right.
The principal oversees teachers, the superintendent oversees the principal, and the school board oversees the superintendent. And so, if there's an issue in a classroom, the board was looking to have, parents understand that they should try to resolve that issue with the teacher. If they're not successful with the teacher, they should talk to the principal. If
Right,
it's still
there's a
not resolved,
Protocol of where,
follow that process.
right, follow the process rather than,
And I think, I think board members you've probably all experienced this, but there is a misconception sometimes that board members are, in their role, they can fix everything.
Yeah.
And you do fix many things, right? But you do that largely by setting policy and setting a budget, and overseeing the superintendent. And then it's kind of my job to oversee the principal, to make sure the principal's doing their job, and the principal's job to oversee the teachers, to make sure they're doing their job, and,
Yeah,
I think
I
that was
think-
the gist of what you wanted to hit.
it was just, and it was because we all, until you sit here, I think our perceptions were all the same way, right? That the board was, you could call your board member, we elected you, why aren't you doing anything, is what we get a lot from people, right? So, knowing that it is budget and policy basically, correct? That the board does, and that doesn't mean don't call us, that's fine, and, we have no problem bringing things forward to a point, but try and use the steps that we have in place for parents to facilitate on their own. But, if they run into things, absolutely, or if there's something that comes up that you think maybe would be beneficial to the school, that's fine. And people are always welcome here. We have the public comment every school board meeting that, for that 30 minutes it's open, and you can come and have your piece, so. But we just felt I think it's something that should happen every year, because people will turn in sometimes, when the board first starts over again, just so that we know where we stand on those kind of things.
I agree with you, but I get it, and I think everybody in this room gets it. This is sort of a two-part comment. At our very last operations committee meeting, a couple of the members from Hampton Falls talked about, like a school board newsletter
Mm-hmm.
that they craft and send out. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in that form, but if there is some forum where, whether it be through an email system or some communication with, the public, maybe we include this
Mm-hmm.
and say, the school board reconvened, a reminder of their roles and responsibilities. Just, very, concise, like
Right.
what you just said, just so that anybody who bothers to read that get, at least we have something to point to, say, this is a good, concise.
And I think that maybe on the website would be a
On-
great
sure,
place to put it.
Wherever.
You know what I mean? Like we can put it
Wherever
under.
the audience is.
Right,
yeah.
because we have a thing where it says school board members, we can just put school board, role, maybe. That would be something, but I also do like having, I think we talked about this before, with having a newsletter or something that
Maybe
comes out that we
quarterly or
add, like,
something.
exactly, that,
Quarterly, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
quarterly, that, this is what we've done, these are what we're doing, because we know that nobody comes to the meetings, because everybody's watching it, I know, like, glued to their seats every Wednesday night,
Well, no,
watching
they
this,
don't.
but
This is not picked up in Northampton. People
they
can't
don't,
watch it.
they don't watch this?
They're on a different channel 22. We
Right,
have
but
our
it's
own.
on our Winnacunnet, you can watch it through the Winnacunnet one, and they don't.
No, nobody gets that.
Oh. Well, that's too bad.
A lot of people watch channel 22 in town, but there's kind of a.
Yeah,
I
cause
don't
we're
know.
not on 22 here, this one isn't on our Hampton 22,
Oh.
it's on the Winnacunnet
Okay.
school one.
All of our meetings are on channel 22 in Northampton.
Yeah.
Except for this one.
Yeah,
Is there a way for us to get it?
I've attempted. It's.
Not easily. I mean, they can, yeah.
Yeah.
Greg Libby's
Giving
like,
me
no.
a hard no.
Hard
Yeah,
pass on
tech
that
guys
one,
like,
thanks. But I think that's something that maybe we need to put it out there even more, that how to access it. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
So that the other
right.
towns can get it, cause obviously Hampton Falls, Seabrook, and Northampton are not, well, and
You can see it on
Hampton
YouTube.
too,
They can
because,
all
yeah, YouTube,
watch it on YouTube.
YouTube,
Even
okay,
like a little blurb for the town newsletters that
Mhm.
come out would be,
yeah, I think that's something we should definitely look into.
So maybe we should make a role of who wants to write the newsletter.
Well, yeah,
Good idea.
can't we also
If you
run
don't
this
make a
through
role,
our
no one's
PR?
gonna happen.
That's what I wanted to talk about too. I think after these past town elections, I don't wanna go too far off topic, but I was contacted by the Hampton Falls School Board to send updates on what we had going on at Winnacunnet for warrant articles, so they could put it in their newsletter. And I said, gee, this is a great idea. I'd love to do this. Let's talk about this at a future meeting. And then town elections happened, and I had quite a few people come to me and say, we had a couple warrant articles over in Hampton Falls that didn't pass. And they said, how could this happen? I said, well, first of all, if you look at the numbers, you see that not many people voted compared to how many people go to Winnacunnet. There's a little, the numbers are a little wonky here. And then it just came to this conversation of how to communicate with parents, and we're bombarded with this, that, and the other thing when our kids are in school. And I know Hampton Falls, they sent out a paper, and it had every warrant article on there, the day to vote, what was going on, and it was put in everyone's mailbox.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, so it's, how do we get the information to people that don't wanna see it? Because that's, we get
Right.
the papers and we toss it, and how do we do that so people are in the know? And I'm that person. If I wasn't on the school board, what would grab my attention? And then I thought to going back to the PR firm, can they help us with that? How can we get these important messages to parents? So we're like, listen, this is important. And then they say, oh, okay, yeah, it is important.
It is important, right.
So it got my mind spinning, and that's where I took off on the newsletter, and then thinking about the PR firm, and how can we all come together as a community, meaning our joint board, and getting that information out there. So I asked a couple people, I said, how would you like to hear these things? And they said social media. So maybe that's something we can look into.
it's quick. It's,
You know, just different things like that, or even a form of how all this stuff works. You know, when I start talking about warrant articles to some parents, they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm them deliberative session and this, and they're like, whoa, back it up. It really is incredible how many people don't know, and it's because we're busy parents and we're not thinking about that stuff, but we're the first ones that should, because
Right.
it affects
It affects your
us.
families,
Yeah,
exactly.
so, I think that there's a lot of room for conversation there to do something, to just keep people informed.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, this is on topic, but off topic, but demographers who study the seacoast area say that 1 in 4 people on the seacoast have been here 5 years or less.
Wow.
And they're new to our process of deliberative session, of how we obsessively we vote, and, scrutinize everything, and so much is bottom up. And I think we have to remember that sometimes when we're concerned about reaching people, is there is sort of that general education piece that is, I don't think is ever a waste of time
No.
or effort to put out there, so.
Well, and I think also even having because I'm a firm one that's like, nobody reads the newspaper anymore, but they do online.
Yeah.
So even putting in, we used to do that, the good news from the schools. We'd have that in all of the Hampton Union, the Portsmouth Herald, all of them, Exeter Newsletter.
Online.
Yeah, and just because it's online doesn't mean we can't put something in there. So I think maybe that is a topic we can discuss maybe at
School board goals.
yes, school board goals, and meeting, yeah. But, and doing it, because I think we should do a retreat again where we discuss our goals, and we sit down and we say, okay, where do we want to see us, what do we want to accomplish this next year? So when we do that, I think that's one of the big discussions we should be having.
That would be great.
Okay.
I just want to add, while we're on the subject of the rules and responsibilities of school boards, we have the board we had for the past couple of years, and, which is great, but I can't recommend enough the seminars that the New Hampshire School Board Association affords us for no cost. Well, we pay for it, but they've been so helpful on just different, how to run a meeting, the right to know law, and I find them, every time I watch one, I'm learning more myself about,
Good point.
yeah, and
Good
it's
point.
it's good for us to be doing that as well,
Yeah.
educating ourselves.
Well, and it's
about
changing
it.
all the time.
And
So
it
it's
is
like,
changing with different laws.
being on there is good.
Yeah, every legislative session, something changes.
Something
and
changes.
Sometimes a lot changes, but
Yeah.
but it's a great resource, and I think
Okay.
I highly recommend it.
Good point. Thank you. School board goals, at this point, I think what we wanna do is, it's further down, I wanna get together and we'll set a work study.
Work session.
Thank you, that's the word I wanted. Work session
We're all
with the,
going with you.
you all know where we're going, so, and we can discuss those at that time, but keep it in the back of your head of things that we wanna, that you are passionate about, okay? Policies, we have first reads here, so if you would just check them out, and we'll be voting on them next month, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I just, I did see one little tweak I want, before I forget.
Oh, yeah.
And it's on the one, background investigation and criminal history. It's just, I think it was taken from the Northampton School Board, because it still says Northampton,
Oh,
and it just should be changed to
yeah,
Winnacunnet or something.
we'll make sure that gets corrected.
Yeah, just a
That's
little-
right.
The
Yep.
policy committee adopts the same, but
Right.
sometimes when we are
Right,
pasting
oh,
them
no,
all into
absolutely, I
Word
knew
docs, we
exactly
miss
what
it.
happened.
Yep.
I just, before I forget, I just wanted to
Thank you.
draw our attention to that.
B, C, D,
Yeah,
check.
okay, and so we'll do those, then we have, all right, so now we have the acceptance of the gift from, the $5,000 from Rick Kirby to support the Winnacunnet band.
I found
So
it
could I have a motion
fascinating.
for that?
He lives in Wisconsin.
Hmm.
That's-
Yeah, he contacted, Ken a few weeks ago and said, how can I
Wow,
make a
Isn't that
donation?
cool?
that is great. That he didn't forget
Does he
about
have,
us.
yeah, that's neat, that's awesome. So could I have a motion to accept the donation?
I'll make a motion to accept the donation of $5,000 from Rick Kirby to support the Winnacunnet Band Department.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? All right, and the next one is, the withdrawal from the building fund for the tennis courts for the amount of, motion to withdraw 23,218 for repairs to the tennis court surface. I have a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to withdraw $23,218 for repairs to the tennis court surface.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Withdrawal of building maintenance expendable. Are we gonna hold off on this one then, or are we doing this? Oh, guess this is the time that we discuss it.
This is the time to decide.
This is the time to decide. Do we wanna do this? I know we've discussed it earlier, but maybe people have sat with it. I don't know. I'll defer to the board if they wanna wait and think about it and do it in April, or we can vote on it today. So it's up to you. What are we thinking? Anybody have any thoughts?
I feel like it's almost depleting the whole account. It only leave $25,000 left, right?
Yeah.
But you feel good about that?
I don't feel.
Yeah. Matt would not feel good about
No,
that.
Matt
Well, no,
doesn't
I
wanna
mean,
ever
like-
touch those accounts.
You feel like that's enough of a safety net? Or you
Tamara-
would, you know what I mean? I don't know, I just feel like it's I support the pathway. I just worry it's like depleting the whole account, and is that a wise decision if we did have a big emergency? I know we had like sewage or some issue, flooding, and I assume insurance paid for that. I don't know, I guess I just don't know what kind of costs could come up where we would need to use that in an emergency. I'm just a saber conservative person.
I mean, for the last 20 years, we haven't used it. You know, I
Never
think.
used it in 20 years.
So
But
it's- and I
20
think-
years ago,
Knock on wood, right?
25,000, yeah. Was
Yeah,
a
really.
lot, it was a lot
Everybody
different.
pass this.
Yeah, did anybody else wanna knock on the board?
You know, like I mentioned, you know, the big repairs, I mean, we have the roof replacement underway, so that's one of the potential areas, the HVAC systems. You know, as far as mechanical, it could be a boiler system, something like that, but, you know,
Right.
typically,
That's what,
I mean,
yeah,
even,
like
you know,
a
even with
boiler.
the plumbing issue, I mean, insurance does pay for some of that. But that's not to say something, you know, again, I can't envision something happening here based on what I know of this building, but that doesn't mean that it can't.
Yeah. It's just we're also taking money from those other accounts. We're $300,000 deficit right now. Ugh, I don't know. I don't wanna be difficult, I'm just.
Oh,
like-
no, you're not being difficult at
I think
all.
we're all
Like,
feeling
if there's
kind
an
of
emergency, like before we used to have maybe extra money, we were returning to the towns where, oh, we could use that, and but now we have a $300,000 deficit, so there's not a lot of wiggle room in the regular budget to cover a last minute emergency kind of thing by, you know, I don't know, that's just my perspective.
No,
but-
it's a good one.
I think we should wait a month. Think about it.
I feel more comfortable with that as well.
Waiting a month.
I think
Okay.
so we can maybe,
Matt, they wouldn't increase it too much in a month if we said
No.
we're, you know. Okay.
okay.
That's my
So if
concern.
we have more time that we won't be penalized for, I would think I would like to take a little more time,
Okay.
personally.
All right.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree, unfortunately, or unfortunately, I don't know, I see both sides. I see,
yeah,
they
I
all
see the
do,
money
yeah.
coming out, but I also, like, that's what it's for, is, you know, like, again, like to Bill's point, we haven't used it in 20 years. It's been building up, and this is something that we've needed at the school for quite some time, because it's always had a steep hill, and it's always, you know what I mean? So, and again, the public has asked for it, you know, our parents, our kids, our, you know, the grandparents, the people who use the facilities have asked for it. Yes, it's a lot more money than we anticipated, for sure, but, you know, but that's just my thought. So I think waiting a month is not a problem at all, so, you guys, is that everybody's feeling?
I'm fine with that. I would hope that in those 30 days, we might clean out some drawers, look through a few line items, see if there might be some way to help offset that total from an additional source.
Do you mean from our budget or from outside sources?
I'm not picky.
Yeah, I mean, our budget, I think our budget has been ripped to shreds at this point. We don't have a,
I'm willing to be creative.
I just don't think our budget at this point.
Do we want to have a yard sale?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not happy with the total, but I think it needs to be done.
Yeah.
So I would hope that in a month's time, we could come up with some sort of situation that can be, utilized and is amenable and so forth, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think realistically, there's not gonna be any money out of the operating budget. And we can certainly start to have conversations about, like, with organizations, if that's the direction we wanna take as far as outside fundraising. But I'm not sure if
In 30 days.
I mean, the Friends of Winnacunnet just donated the electronic sign for about $70,000, and the pavilion for another $50,000 was the
Alumni
Alumni
Association.
Association. So we can start having those type of conversations, but I don't think we'll probably have any commitments in a month. If I had to guess.
I think I'm just worried about the perception of this becoming sort of a bait and switch, honestly. We until, 5, 6, 7 days ago, people were not thinking that they would have to, come up with a different plan or skirt the plan. I think it's an important thing to do. I would have been willing to vote tonight, but I want to respect the wishes of the board to take another month.
When you say bait and switch, what do you mean by that?
I think if people knew a year ago that it would pose a financial strain, they probably would have been willing to be creative about raising money. And now, because it was, suggested that it come out of the school budget, right? And now that money isn't there, we maybe should have taken a different path.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we didn't know the cost until we did the bid process, and we could certainly, and just to go back to the inflationary piece, I don't think there was an inflationary increase. It was based on
Project.
just an estimate versus an actual competitive bid process.
Okay.
So we had gotten verbal quotes from these vendors, but you're not going to know until we have the actual civil engineer plans and give it to the vendors and do an RFP. So there's certainly inflationary factors within this last year, but I think we were pretty clear as far as the plan of action. It didn't work.
Right.
Unfortunately, it came in higher than what we were hoping and expecting, but that does not preclude us from going back to the table and continuing that conversation and then going the route of working with organizations if we don't feel that that the school can absorb that cost. We can also do a separate warrant article in the next budget cycle and ask the community to fund it in that manner. That's I mean, it's delaying it another year,
Right.
but
And the price will go up again.
I mean, it will. I mean, but what I'm saying is it didn't go from 100 to 165. It went from what our estimates were
Right.
based on,
okay.
vendor input to a real cost. So,
Yeah, I mean, I just look at Marston, and I mean, their path was done by by an Eagle Scout. It was his project, right?
What, at Marston School?
Yeah.
Oh,
They have
yeah,
the
but that
walk
was,
path.
but there was no hill, there was nothing. It was literally something that was already there. Like it was paving is what it was.
I mean, that
You
piece
know,
of it,
it
the
was-
paving, we could have done right off the bat, but we had
the
decided
grading.
that we wanted to do it correctly and do and the hill was the biggest
Yeah.
issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we that's another option. We could separate the project if we just want to do the path. We could do that.
I'm just wondering if
pretty
there's a way to
easily.
bring the path from the back parking lot, the back part, you know,
So we
like,
explored all
yeah.
those
Did you?
options
Okay.
as far as
all right,
taking a gradual.
instead of
it
dealing
would
with the
go,
hill.
It would go into the field.
Right, to meet the
Because there's a
gradient.
field right there that goes into that hill area.
Yeah.
That was I thought that should have worked.
Yeah. Didn't work, huh?
But the grade is just
Too much. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so we looked at different options. And that's why we ended up bringing on a civil engineer to actually do the drawing. So it's been a process. So what I thought initially was going to be a pretty
Piece of cake.
not easy
But yeah,
project, famous last words,
Yeah.
right? Ended up being as you know, because we've been updating you
right.
throughout this whole process, it became a more complicated project and unfortunately a more
Yeah.
costly project.
No, yeah, I don't think it's a bait and switch at all. I think it is just it became a project that was far bigger than what we anticipated. Bottom line,
Right.
you know, we thought we were just gonna do a walkway, and now,
And we'll still have to have like the golf carts and stuff for graduation, right? Because
Yeah,
this-
well,
that's
it
really
wouldn't be
more
done-
about people
even if
just
we
can't
voted
walk the
tonight, it
distance.
wouldn't be done for graduation.
No, I
but-
mean in general.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
you
yeah.
still have that, yeah.
Because some of it's just the distance of
Sure.
how far it is from the parking lot to the field.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah,
I mean, there's no doubt we all support this, I think.
Right.
It's just, to me, it's almost like wait 24 hours to make a big decision
Mhm.
type thing. And when I see this big of a number, I kind of retract back to that of having just a little more time to
No.
think about it. But I don't
think
want to
that's
be
fine.
difficult, of course.
no,
There's
nobody's
I'm
being
like, I'm
difficult
just
at
sitting
all.
here like, ah.
Yeah, no,
Sure,
I think,
but
let's
we're
wait,
all
we're
like
gonna wait a
that.
month.
there's no risk from my perspective as
Yeah.
far I mean
Okay.
other than
Right.
just finalizing it, but
Yeah.
it won't be an issue as far as cost to wait a month, and it won't be an issue as far as
Okay.
scheduling the project.
Okay.
So
I think that's what we should, you know, I think the majority, I know Tamara said you're ready to vote, right? But would you be okay with a month?
I mean, I wanna, respect the wishes of the board.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
but are you okay with us waiting until April?
Sure,
Okay.
I would like to steer clear of warrant article. I don't
Mhm.
think it's something that we need to do
Yeah,
and raise taxes to do
Right.
this. I think we can figure it out.
okay, so we're
Yeah,
just
the
gonna move
path
this.
To the path.
Yeah, so let's just, with the award of bid and the withdrawal of the funds, we're gonna put it on for next month. Okay?
Right.
All right, perfect. Thank
so
you, Matt.
we'll schedule we'll have to have another public hearing next
Yep.
month, just so that you're aware.
Sure,
So.
we can do that. All right, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Report on graduation rates.
So, I don't count.
Yay.
Let
I got
Dave
the
do
data
it.
too.
Oh my goodness, look at
He needs something to do.
Dave, they were not, sorry.
Dave's
school
been
board
waiting
vote.
all night.
We want Dave, Dave.
Yeah.
Dr. Hobbs.
So, each year, the state reports out graduation rates and dropout rates for the school, for Winnacunnet High School. And they've ranged, for the last several years, graduation rate anywhere between 90 and 92%. And the dropout rate has ranged anywhere from 0.77% to just over 1%. But there was a request can we also provide that data for the sending town?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the state doesn't provide that.
Okay.
So we do have the database here that, we do have students listed in the database based on what sending town they're coming from. So their ID is coded based on the sending town. The difficulty in calculating that, I need to go back for 4 years. So basically, the way the graduation rate or dropout rate is, when they come in as freshmen, 4 years from now, will they still be here at the high school and graduate?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, the request was to go back to the last 4 years, so I look back to 2020. Taking a look back at 2020, I need to take a look at
Nobody wants to see
class
2020 again.
2016.
Oh.
And even further, graduating class for 2023, for last year, I need to go back to 2019. And we do have the students coded in PAL school based on the year of graduation. So everybody that came in as freshmen in 2016 was coded as,
Class of
there's
2020.
a 2-0 in there. So I can go through the PAL school and get that, and then there's many reasons for students to withdraw. They transfer to other schools, so all that's coded, take those people out, and then students also come in. So I need to track them.
Right.
And so doing that, I did it a couple different ways just as I figured out how to calculate. So I've been pretty consistent across the whole calculation. That, overall, the numbers don't exactly match up with state, but they're within that
Margin of error.
Okay.
margin of error. Bill's margin of error.
I like it.
So by doing that, I think we pride ourselves, Winnacunnet prides ourselves that, we have multiple pathways. That no matter what students are, we're gonna find a way. So no matter what town students have come from, the graduation rate and the dropout rates, they differ a little bit, but percentage-wise, it's not that great.
Okay.
Now, we do have specific numbers, but overall, the highest number are transfer students. And typically, a transfer student is somebody that they come to Winnacunnet High School from a different sending school. Because typically, if they transfer into one of the sending towns in K through 8, they get that sending town number. There's a few that may not, but typically. So all the sending towns have a code. Students that come from Sacred Heart have a code. Transfer students have a code, so we can sort it out from that standpoint. And then the other thing too, just based on enrollment, for example, Northampton, Hampton Falls, their numbers are so low that if 1 or 2 students drop out,
The
they're gonna
percentage
have
is
a higher
huge.
percentage.
Sure.
So from that standpoint, overall, there's really no one group of students that doesn't do well at Winnacunnet High School.
It's good to know.
And, we've been pretty successful.
I wouldn't wanna see, I feel like that could just create bad feelings, separating it out by town or something, I don't know.
When
Like, I think
it does,
overall is
because,
more
it's,
important.
we serve all the different towns and they come here at different levels. Our goal is to make sure that they all graduate and provide opportunities for them.
Right.
It's incredible numbers, less than 1% dropout rate overall and 92 to 99%.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's huge.
So I wouldn't feel like I
So,
need to know
you
per
have anything else
town.
there?
No, but I don't know what you handed out, but yeah.
I don't have anything handed out.
Okay, so it's one thing to look at the table with the zeros and, 0% dropouts. It's another thing to look at the 99% graduation rate. It's inspiring to see across the board how well kids are doing.
Okay, and that's night school and,
He's gonna say that at the microphone now.
So basically, evening program, they're considered as completers.
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Sure, and the graduation rate, right.
Right, the dropout would be students who weren't awarded or Winnacunnet didn't.
Right.
No, I think the fear or the question was, would we see a blip somewhere out there? We didn't, which it's a testament to the pathways that we have here. And, and the attention we've got throughout the entire 4 years for our kids.
Awesome.
And Bill's Excel spreadsheets.
That's it. I know. No, thank you. No, that's good to know, and I agree with you. Splitting it out in towns doesn't do anything but looking at the overall numbers, but there was a request for that, that's why they did it, and,
I think he's saying hopefully he doesn't have to do it again.
Mhm.
Sounds like it was
You know,
complicated.
between the civil rights data collection and this, it's, just sorting data.
So, the persons that requested that can contact you, Bill, and you can explain what you've explained to us tonight.
Sure.
Mhm.
Or contact Dr. Hobbs.
Yeah.
Dr. Hobbs, okay.
Okay. Perfect, thank you, both of you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Teacher appreciation. That was
Board request.
a board request, that was from me. because I think we were talking about doing something for teacher appreciation. Is it a week, a month? Is it a month?
Did you say that? A week?
A week, a week. Okay, a day, yeah. It's an hour in the morning that we know.
The principal yesterday.
It's over.
Yeah, it's over, done, that was it. Yeah, principal day, all those things. My question was, if we as a board would like, do they do breakfasts for the staff, every once in a while, right? How often do you do that?
Once a month.
Once a month. If we would like to, as a board, sponsor the breakfast, for the staff. And I just didn't know if you guys would like to do that as an appreciation from us to them, because they usually have outside people that will sponsor it, you know, like, I was, asked just from my business whether we wanted to, you know, do one of their breakfasts. So we thought of a nice way of doing it from the school board where, you know, we can't write them checks, but we can feed them. So, I just didn't know if you guys would be up for that.
Yep.
Yeah?
Support that.
Perfect. Okay, good. I will look into costs and how we'll handle that, so.
Okay.
Okay.
And I assume those are, those include all educators?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
it's all of our staff.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
Chef Ed, he prepares the food and we have it in the dining hall before school starts.
Yeah, and then if we, the day that we decide to do it, whoever could be there too, I think would be great.
That would be
You know,
great,
and
yeah.
just as a thank you for all the hard work that they do day in and day out.
That would be great if we could all try to be there.
Yeah.
I know that's hard.
I know it's hard,
I'll be the
but you
first
know.
one that has
Yeah.
the sick kid or who knows
Just bring the
what.
kids. Bring the kids. Yeah, you can bring children, because
I
it's
don't
usually
know.
at like 7:00, right?
They're feral ones.
7:15, so.
Yeah, it's between 7 and 7:15 or whatever, and you just, we'll give them the Cheerios, they can have those, so, yeah.
That went in the permanent record.
Yeah.
They have a long way to go before they enter this building, let's just say that.
I love it. So, all right, great, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, future meetings, we have an the SAU
Joint
21
board.
joint board meeting, that's what I'm trying to spit it out, Wednesday, March 27th. Joint board policy committee meeting is on April 8th. Our next Winnacunnet school board meeting is Wednesday, April 17th. So at this point, we're gonna talk about personnel, so we're going into non-public. So I need a motion to go into non-public.
Motion for roll call to enter non-public session under RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2A at 8:22 p.m.
Second.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor? Oh, no, we have to do roll call, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so we have Desiree Potter,
Yes.
Leslie LaFawn,
Yes.
Nicole Seco,
Yes.
Tamara Lay,